Hello and welcome to Sam Reviews and Gaming. And finally, I've decided to make my top 10 movies of 2020. Um, so this year's been an interesting year. Of course, I don't really want to talk about it that much, but you know what happened. So there wasn't that many movies that came out that I actually wanted to see, so I ended up seeing a whole bunch of movies that I would not have seen, and ended up in this list, and quite a few didn't actually. But I tried to see movies that I would like. Um, so yeah, and this is just my list. But anyway, let's start off with some honorable mentions. Okay, so my first honorable mention is Bad Boys for Life. So I hadn't actually seen any of the previous Bad Boys movies, but I decided to go watch this back in January last year in cinemas and had a very fun time at the movies with a good buddy cop movie, great action, and it actually surprised me. I was expecting it to be, average, but it was a lot better than that. So my next honorable mention is Freaky. So the concept of Freaky Friday and Halloween slasher stuff with a serial killer. It was a great concept and it really worked. I think like it was a really fun movie with a lot of creative kills and just a fun time in the theater. Next we have Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. So this was released on Netflix at the end of the year, and I decided to watch it mostly because it was Chadwick Boseman's last performance, and I heard that he was really good. And the movie itself is very good, is pretty decent, but Chadwick Boseman's performance and Viola Davis's performance are really what carries the movie and makes it as good as it is. But it's a really solid movie, and of course, because it's honorable mentions. Next, we have The Gentleman. So this, I watched this like on streaming, like near the end of the year, because I didn't see it in January. I don't know why. But yeah, it was a really, really cool movie. I am a great fan of Guy Ritchie's movies, so it was cool to see, another really, really good Guy Ritchie movie. And yeah, it was just so fun. And I mean, the start is a bit slow, but once you get into it, and it's quite creative, and I just loved it. Like, yeah. Next we have Mank, which is the David Fincher's latest movie on Netflix, and I'd seen a few of his movies, and then of course I wanted to watch this because it was his new one, and I watched it, and yeah, it's a really good movie with some great performances, great cinematography. The black and white really works, and it was just a really fun time watching it. Yeah, I haven't even seen Citizen Kane, but I still really enjoyed this movie. So yeah, maybe I wouldn't it would get in my top 10 if I had watched Citizen Kane, but I don't know. For me, it's still a very good movie. And my final honorable mention is Dark Waters. Now, you may be confused because you thought this movie came out in 2019, but here in New Zealand, where I live, it came out in March. So, yeah, of 2020. So, um, this counts for me because I couldn't have watched it in 2019 anyway. But yeah, it was a really cool movie. Great performances. The actual, because it's based on a true story. It was really interesting, the story, and yeah, it was just really fun to watch. I watched it like a few days ago actually. I was like, oh, I gotta watch this because it might be good, and it ends up in honorable mentions. So I mean, that's pretty decent. So that's my honorable mentions, and now I move on to number 10 for my top 10 movies of 2020. The Five Bloods. So this movie, I tried to watch it throughout the year since it came out. When June, yeah, I just tried to watch it. I kind of got busy or distracted by other movies, and then finally I decided to watch it, and wow, it yeah, I heard that it was quite a different type of war movie. I knew it wasn't actually during Vietnam War. I knew it was the veterans going back and stuff. But yeah, it was actually quite a good movie with great performances, quite sad actually, and really shocking at points. Like, didn't expect some things to happen in this movie that really, like, left me tense and stuff. But yeah, it was a great movie, and one of Chadwick Boseman's last performances. I mean, he's not really in the movie that much, but when he is, it's really, he does shine. Um, yeah, so I just think it was a really cool movie. It's quite slow at points, but then it does get better, I guess, as you go on and you learn more about the characters. And yeah, so it was a really good movie. So that's my number 10. And my number 9 is The Invisible Man. So I wanted to see this in cinemas in February, but here in New Zealand it's R16, and I didn't turn 16 until May, which was during lockdown anyway. But when I did see this at the end of the year on streaming, I mean, I kind of expected it to be really good, and wow, it was really good. Like, this is one of my favorite horror movies. I mean, it's not like, The Shining or anything, but it's still like, it's not really a horror. It's more thriller, and it's quite like I was on the edge of my seat for like the entire movie, and because you can't see him, I mean, it was just such a great movie, great performance from Elizabeth Moss, and yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's gonna be another one, but I'd definitely go watch it if there was. But yeah, anyway, that's my number 9. My number 8 is Palm Springs. So I watched this movie. It was on Amazon Prime. I specifically got the 7-day free trial of Amazon Prime to watch Borat 2, Palm Springs, Sound of Metal, and The Boys season 1 and 2, which I did. But my favorite one out of all of that was definitely Palm Springs. I mean, this movie was. I mean, I love Andy Samberg from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Like, he's the best part of that show. And J.K. Simmons is also amazing. I didn't actually know he was in the movie. I don't really know how. But I was surprised when I saw him in the movie. But anyway, the whole Groundhog Day thing, like, I haven't even seen Groundhog Day, but of course I know the concept and everything. But I love this movie so much. Like, it's just the comedy is great. It's quite a good romance story, and it's just such a fun movie, and the performance, yeah, it's just good. You should watch it. Yeah. And my number 7 is Bill and Ted Face the Music. So this was also one of my late movies I watched. Um, I wanted to watch this in cinemas, but then I never got around to it. I don't really know why. I mean, it wasn't really in cinemas for long. It was like in cinemas here in New Zealand for about 2 weeks or something. So I didn't really get a chance to really see it. But I watched it near the end of the year, and wow, this is probably my favorite Bill and Ted movie. Like, I liked the first one. The second one was interesting. And then this one, I think, is my favorite, although I haven't watched the other ones in a long time. So, yeah, but I just think that Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter definitely brought back to life Bill and Ted in a great way. And, like, just, it was just such a joy for the entire movie. It went by super fast. I mean, it is quite a short movie, but it's still really good. Like, you get all the great time travel and comedy, and like, people don't think that Keanu Reeves should do Bill play Ted, but I think that he does a great job, and it is pretty much the role that made him famous. But yeah, I mean, this movie's great, and then their daughters are also pretty good as well. And then bringing back Death was pretty cool. Although he's not in the movie that much, but it's still cool. And yeah, it was just really, really fun. I expected it to be a lot worse than it actually was, but yeah, there we go. And my number 6, Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. So this was my most anticipated movie of 2020 because I loved Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn in Suicide Squad, best part of the movie by far. And then I saw the trailers for this and it looked really, really cool. Um, I think I might have overhyped it a bit because it wasn't quite as good as I expected, but it was still really, really good because, of course, it's as high on the list. Um, but I've seen it like 4 times now or 5 times this year, and I mean, it's just so fun. Like the choreography is great. The characters, especially Harley Quinn, are awesome. I liked Huntress and Black Canary. I wasn't really a fan of Renee Montoya. Like every time she's on screen, it really slows the movie down. Um, that's my only criticism really with the movie. The rest of the movie is great. Ewan McGregor as Black Mask is just like so good, and Victor Zsasz. I mean, this movie is like such a great like fun movie to watch, and it's not my favorite DCE movie. It's actually, but I mean, I am a huge DC fan, so anytime there's a new DC movie, I'm really hyped for it, and this delivered. And so that's my number 6. My number 5 is The Way Back. So I actually watched this movie on the last day of 2020. I wanted to see it in March, but then we went into lockdown and I just couldn't be bothered to really stream it at the time. But anyway, I did watch it and wow, like Ben Affleck's performance in this movie is really amazing. Like you can tell how much he put into this role because apparently, well, he was an alcoholic or whatever. So the fact that he's playing an alcoholic, overcoming it by coaching a basketball team, is really like good. But then the rest of the movie is just really like it's really sad, but really cool, like nice at the same time with the basketball stuff, and it's a feel good movie. But I think it's one of the best feel good movies that that's been ever made. Like honestly, it's just great. Like the comedy in this is cool, really good as well. And yeah, it ended up being my 5th favorite movie of the year. Didn't expect that when I went into watching it, but hey, yeah, I wouldn't have seen this movie if it hadn't been for 2020, and I'm glad that I did because it's just such a good movie. Anyway, my number 4, The Trial of the Chicago 7. So of course this movie was going to be on this list. This movie is most probably going to win Best Picture, and it definitely should. This is, if I was going to say the best movie, not my favorite movie, then this is probably it. I don't know. I don't really like to look at it that way. I just like favorites. But this movie was so good. From the moment I saw the trailer, I was like, this movie is going to be good. And then I watched it, and man, the true story that it's based on it definitely needed to be put into a film. The performances are great, and if Sacha Baron Cohen does not win or even get nominated for Best Supporting Actor, then there's something wrong because he definitely is the best part of this movie. And yeah, this movie just really like grips you, and the pacing is really great. The editing, which also it should win for, yeah. I just love this movie. Yeah, it was definitely one of the highlights of the year watching this on Netflix. It would have been cool to see it in cinemas, but it was such a good movie to watch, and definitely enjoyed it a lot. So that's my number 4. And my number 3 is, we're getting into the top 3. My number 3 movie of 2020 is 1917. What? Yes, this movie came out in January 2020 in New Zealand on January 7th, I think. So it literally 7 days after. Yeah, so it would have been my 2019 list, definitely. I love this movie to pieces. Like, it's in my top 50 movies of all time. In fact, the next 3 are, which people might say is a bit stupid, but I move them around all the time, so it doesn't matter. But this has been in my top 50 movies since I saw it I think I saw it in February, in cinemas. But yeah, I love this movie. The whole one-shot thing, it's great. It won Best Cinematography at the Oscars, and it definitely deserved that because wow. I've seen Parasite and I think 1917 still should have won Best Picture, not that. But anyway, this movie is great. The performances are great. The cameo roles, they're like the small, general roles that some of the big actors play are really cool. They, kind of steal the part that they're in. But man, this movie is so captivating because it's a one shot. You feel like you're in the action, and watching this movie in the cinemas is really tense. Like you are on the edge of your seat the entire time, and then there's just like it's just like all quiet, and then there's a huge explosion, and this movie definitely needed to be seen in the cinema, and I'm so glad I did. I've seen it again on streaming, and it wasn't as good. The movie itself, of course, was good, but the experience wasn't as good because you need that cinema experience for this movie because of how captivating and it is. But yeah, I just love this movie. Yeah, so yeah. Anyway, so that's my number 3. My number 2 movie, a bit controversial maybe, is Tenet. So this was the first movie I saw in cinemas since 1917. So I saw that in February and this in September, I think, or August. I don't even remember. But I remember we went to the premiere screening of this because in New Zealand they had like a day, a week before it actually released, where there was screenings throughout the day, and we went to the one at night. And man, this movie is so cool. Like, I love Christopher Nolan movies. I'm not the biggest fan of Dunkirk. Like, that was his last movie, and so I was like, he might have lost his, But no, this movie is so cool. Like, the concept, the acting, Robert Pattinson, of course, is the best part of the movie because it's Robert Pattinson. But the special effects, the sound. When I watched this movie in the theater, we went to this really, really the biggest theater in the city where I live, and the seats were vibrating from the bass so much. Like, that's how loud this movie was. It was a great experience, but I walked out and I couldn't hear anything. But so people were complaining they couldn't hear the dialogue. I could hear the dialogue fine. I just couldn't hear after the movie. But yeah, this this movie is so cool. It's really hard to describe, but it's just fun, really creative, and greatly made. And you can tell that so much effort went into this movie because of having people who are fighting forwards in time and people who are fighting backwards in time, and they're just, that would have been so hard to make. So, I gotta give it to Christopher Nolan, and I'm so glad this movie went to cinemas and wasn't postponed till next year, because it's so annoying. All those movies that actually did do that, yes, it didn't do that well at the box office, but I'm just glad it did come out, and so I got to go to the cinemas for a huge blockbuster. Yeah, great movie. Anyway, so the moment you've all been waiting for, my number 1 movie of 2020. It's definitely going to be controversial for some, but anyway, here it is. Wonder Woman 1984. So, this was my second most anticipated movie of the year, because I'm a DC fan, and DC's awesome, and there was no Star Wars coming out this year, so, I had to have the 2 DC movies at my number 1 and 2 for most anticipated, but still, this movie absolutely blew me away. I absolutely love the first Wonder Woman movie. It is my favorite DCEU movie. And this definitely is not as good as the first one, but so close. People don't like it because it's a completely different tone and style and everything from the first one, but I think that's what makes it cool. It makes it different to the first one. So you expect what you got in the first, but then you get something different. So I just like it when that happens, when it's a bit different to what you expect, and then you end up enjoying it more. But yeah, this movie is great. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman kills it yet again. So does Chris Pine as Steve Trevor, and the way they brought him back was really clever. It didn't seem like just done so he could go back into the movie. But anyway, the two villains, Kristen Wiig as Cheetah and Pedro Pascal as Maxwell Lord, were really, really good. They completely, like, the villain from the first Wonder Woman, Ares, stupid. He wasn't that good. But these villains definitely were way better. They had much more personality. They were just so much better to watch on screen than Ares was. So I got to hand it to Wonder Woman 1984 for having much, much better villains than the first one. Although the first one has a better movie overall, this one definitely has the much better villains. There isn't that much action, but I think that's fine, because when the action does come, it's pretty cool. People think it's stupid because it's not quite as violent as the first one, but I think, like, Wonder Woman learns not to, kill people. She doesn't really kill anymore and brutalize them, because what she learned at the end of the first one. So that's why she doesn't, brutalize the people. And also because, spoilers, slight spoilers, but the people aren't really in control of what they're doing. So, she doesn't really want to hurt them. But, I mean, still, I love this movie. It's really, really sad at points, but really, really cool at other points. And it's just super fun. The ending is so great. And the use of previous scores that Hans Zimmer used. Oh, Hans Zimmer's score is, of course, magnificent. Yes, he missed out on... he didn't do Tenet, but Ludwig Göransson did, and he did an amazing job. And so I'm so glad that Hans Zimmer went back to DC, since it's the first time he's been back since Batman vs Superman. And I mean, Batman vs Superman is one of my favorite movie scores of all time. So to hear some of that music in this movie absolutely made me so happy. Yeah, this movie is like, oh wow, definitely my favorite movie of the year. And it might get better upon a rewatch, to be honest. It could possibly become my favorite DCEU movie. I'm not sure yet, but yeah, so that's my #1 movie of the year. Very controversial, I know, since the movie is the lowest rated on IMDb, which is the most stupid thing I've ever heard, because it is definitely not worse than Justice League and Suicide Squad. That's for sure. But anyway, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you want to. Yeah, I'll be putting out my top 10 most anticipated movies of 2021, like, the day after this is released, so you'll be seeing that. And then my next video, I mean, I don't do much videos anymore, but my next video after that will probably be the ranking of the DCEU after Snyder Cut comes out, which I won't spoil how hyped I am for that yet, but anyway, bye.